Hello and welcome back to Football 301. This is Nate Tice. Today we are hearing from you guys. We have our very first mailbag episode on Football 301. Plenty of questions. We actually had to skim it down. You guys did a great job. I'm very proud of you. I'm very happy about this because there's some great questions all over the globe too. Got some international questions. It's an international mailbag. To help me do that and to go over some news before that, just a couple trades happened, including his team, is Mr. Verts himself. And I'm just dropping the floor completely because a few people addressed you as Mr. Verts in these emails. It is my good friend, Charles McDonald. How you doing today, Chuck?
Doing good. Excited to do a mailbag episode. Mainly because don't have to think as much. You guys provide the content for us, and then we regurgitate it back to you. It's like some of the best things that you can do going into the weekend.
Right? It's like, I love this song.
I love this song.
It's like you wrote a song and you're hearing karaoke of it. Yeah.
Come help us help you for a day. You know, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, no, but I actually do love mailbag questions because sometimes what Chuck is saying though is true though, is sometimes though I always feel like, hey, let's talk about the Cardinals again. And you guys do a great job of going like, hey, okay, there's other stuff to talk about, my man. And I appreciate that. So that's why I'm really looking forward to this. Also, if you're listening, you have something to look forward to at Yahoo. Big news if you like money, especially if you like $1 million. I know I like $1 million. I think you would too, Chuck. Yahoo Sports and NBC Sports are teaming up for $1 million sweepstakes. All you got to do is sign up for Yahoo Fantasy League for an instant entry. Someone's got to win $1 million. Might be me. Sign up by September 5th. Details at yahoo.com/fantasy million. Okay. We're going to answer your questions in a sec, but a couple news items, a couple trades, one a little bigger than the other, but just want to talk about them. One involving your favorite team, Charles McDonald. That is Matt Judon going to the Atlanta Falcons for a 3rd round pick. And also the Falcons are reportedly finalizing a deal with free safety Justin Simmons. But we'll start with Judon. How are you feeling about this trade right now, Charles?
I like it. We'll see what happens. That's kind of how I feel about it. He's been great for the Patriots. But, last year he was hurt. He only played in 4 games. He just turned 32 today. So we'll see, because this is the point, like in a player's career where it could really start to go downhill for a player of his caliber. But also, I mean, this is a move that they kind of had to make if the Patriots and the Judon's relationship had kind of deteriorated over the past couple of weeks because he wanted the contract extension and maybe they didn't feel like they wanted to go in that direction, and he's available. You got to go for it, especially because they don't really have any edge rushers on the roster, and they just lost Brandon Trice to a season-ending injury. So yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it. But I do think that I don't really think the 3rd round pick part is the risk here. It's more the contract you're about to hand out to him because there are some warning signs here that we've probably already seen the best of Matt Judon, if we're going to be real.
Yeah, at first I was like, this is needed for the Falcons. It's hilarious that you and I kind of lit them up the other day, and then they made a couple moves right after. I was like, oh, okay. Like, all right, well, hopefully we saw something out of this. You nailed it on the head, though. He's 32. He was just hurt. Not usually the player profile of any type of player that you'd want to be trading for. I mean, I think that's just, looking at details. That's just narrative scouting. If I want to see what happens with the contract, at first I think I saw a rumor that it was nothing has happened yet. So that they made the trade with nothing in the works. And also there's other teams interested in this. Bears and Dolphins, other teams interested, according to Aaron Wilson. In Matt Judon, Texans as well. All of those kind of make Dolphins just keep trying to hey, is this edge work? Does this edge going to stay healthy for us? I feel like they just keep getting into one after another. But I mean, it was needed from the Falcons. They say they're contenders. Again, we keep talking about this. Like, that's how they view themselves. So if you are, well, this is the stuff that you have to do. Same with the Simmons
that's how they
edition.
view themselves.
That's how they view themselves. This is the narrative that they have written. So, okay, continue to follow that narrative. So, and you also notice mentioned the Patriots relationship with Judon too. That's also like a big component of all these things. So the 3rd rounder was a little richer than I actually thought it would be because of how older he is off the injury stuff, the contract questions. I thought maybe a 4th realistically, but this is kind of when there's a market, this can kind of happen. So I think it's kind of a win-win, but it's kind of a sour win a little bit, I think, with some of the things that happened.
Incomplete.
Yeah. It's like, Yeah, there's a down arrow next to it. It's got a little minor trade, interdivision trade in the NFC East. Jordan Phillips from the Giants went to the Cowboys for a late round swap. Cowboys also signed the end Carl Lawson, fun player. But Phillips, he looked like he was going to get cut from the Giants. They have a lot of beef on that defensive front. The Cowboys need beef. We've talked about this. Maisie Smith is not really, he's big, but he's not a plugger. He's a gap shooter. So they needed that guy that could be the Jonathan Hankins. So this is a chance at it, a dice roll at it. They need that type of player profile.
I think it's funny because this is kind of where you see the shift between like DQ and Zimmer.
Yeah.
Because Zimmer's like,
yeah.
Like Zimmer's
no
always
way.
had. Zimmer's like, there's no way we are going to be this soft at nose tackle. We can't do it. Like, it's just not going to be a thing. I mean, because he was there when they paid Linval Joseph in Minnesota. They had Pecco in Cincinnati when he was the DC there. Snacks. Wait, no, Snacks was
no, not Snacks. Not Snacks. The other guy that's who's with the Browns now. That's bad.
Tomlinson?
Yeah, Tomlinson. That was another one.
So yeah, Zimmer's he's always tried to have, someone that can just sit there and eat blocks and be a big, mean, scary person in the middle. And that's something that the Cowboys have not had. It's something that the Falcons never really had outside of 1 year of Dontari Poe in Atlanta. So this is kind of
I forgot about that.
Yeah, he was really good that year too. And then that was that. I don't know. You have 1 year of Dontari Poe and Grady just absolutely dominating on the inside, and it never happened again. But I don't think this is like a fix. It's like it's a Band-Aid that's like a little wet on one side, so it's kind of falling off still. But Jordan Phillips, I think that's an improvement over what they had, just in terms of being, someone who can sit there and plug a gap in the middle.
That's it. It's a body for him where it's better than nothing. It's better than trying to figure out the alternative. Like, how are we going to do this? It'll just be the classic problem the Cowboys have run into the last few years is everyone can run on us. So hopefully we get to a passing down. So a couple fun trades involving defensive ends. Okay. Here we go. Hopping into the questions. Order these kind of in whatever order we got them in. So yeah, that's how we're gonna go over them. So first question. You guys did a great job. It was fun to skim through these, but we'll start with Josh Rose. On a recent episode, you mentioned a young coach blanking on the team. It was Nick Rawls, Cardinals defense coordinator, who was really good and would be a head coach in a few years. Yeah, that was kind of a heat check moment, but yeah, still, I'm very optimistic about him. But who are some other rising star coaches in the position ranks who many haven't heard of yet? Not like a Kellen Moore, ... And that was from Josh. Do you have any, Chuck, to start us off with? I had a couple outside of Nick.
I mean, honestly, the more I started looking around at these staffs, I was like, I don't know because I do feel like
clean,
right? Because I feel we've already talked about Drew Petzing before, and he's the offensive coordinator of the Cardinals. So I didn't want to go there, but it just seems like some of these teams, like the Patriots, some of these other teams have gone back and just hired guys who have been OCs before. But if I was going to go with a name to watch, you probably want to watch what Zach Robinson's going to do in Atlanta, just because, he's from the McVay tree. He's a quarterback's coach with the Rams. He used to work at PFF too. So, maybe he's got some. Yeah, it's an interesting profile, and he's going to have a veteran quarterback too to throw to help kind of get him going. So maybe Petzing and Zach Robinson are two guys that I would circle, but guys that I felt excited about. I was like, I don't know, maybe I kind of need to watch some more. I kind of need some games.
Yeah, that's kind of how I kind of ended up the same spot. So the Cardinals guys, which is Rawls and Petzing, Patrick Graham, defense coordinator for the Raiders, but he's been around. That's not like a newish
he's
name.
Had his chances,
He had his chance, and he kind of wavered back down, but he's kind of getting a little bit of a swell right now. He's got such an interesting, he's got some Patriots to him. He's kind of been at some few teams. Yeah. Denard Wilson, defense coordinator for the Titans, got the Ravens background, got a fun background, been at a few teams, Eagles the year before that, DBs. And anytime you got good DB play, they're a lot like O-line coaches where it's like, oh, you're getting the most out of these 4 or 5 guys at a time. Oh, I'm keeping an eye on you. So he's one. When they're a play caller, though, it's much different. So I got to see that. I did couple college guys, Ryan Grubb, going to the Seahawks, offensive coordinator. Again, have to see how it goes. Jesse Minter, defense coordinator for the Chargers, come from Michigan. He's had some NFL background too. So he's in the Harbaugh school academy right now. That might be a year or two away before they kind of get that swell. But those are guys I'm keeping an eye on as kind of like, okay, you're young and interesting and not just a Shanahan disciple. Yeah, that's really, but that's really it, because you're getting into like seventh tier Shanahan guys now,
right?
You know, the Bobby Slokes of the world,
and that's been what's kind of been an interesting shift where we saw a bunch of like defensive coordinators hired, and people are like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, guys, that well might be dry. the Shanahan,
there's all these young defensive guys that are like, okay, like,
right. You know, it's not, you can't just hire anyone who's just, you know, sat at breakfast with Kyle. You got to do some due diligence here.
Right. You can't just copy, Control C, Control V. All right. So next question from JC. Hey, congrats on the new show, Nate and the gang. Thank you. Question for you. With the NFL being so cyclical, what is the offensive response to Mike Macdonald, one of those young defense coordinators we just talked about, and Jesse Minter, disguised defensive meta that seems to be spreading? Seems like play action crossers were the response to Seattle cover 3. All right. What should we look for next? That's the kind of gist of this question. I do have a couple thoughts on this that were going to be an article, but not happening. So might as well use it on a podcast answer. So this is great. I love this question. More all-purpose plays, meaning because the defense is so doing a little bit of everything and moving so much, you want stuff that has answers to everything. Traditionally in the run game, that's outside zone. Defenses have some good answers against that now. So now I think it's going to be more duo and variations of that, or read option, like front side duo read. If anyone's playing college football 25, you can run it a bunch right now. So those types of plays that have answers to whatever the defense brings, because it's all about number count. You can't run counter or certain plays against certain box counts. Like the numbers just don't add up. Pass plays, all-purpose pass plays, which means you need to have to have a dude at quarterback because they have to read the whole field. They have to diagnose a coverage, 5-step drops, 7-step drop stuff, where if it's cover 2, I have to hit the dig on this play. But against man, I'm actually going to this route over here. So you'll hear me talk about a lot of plays, Y cross, sail, those types of plays that have answers against whatever coverage they are. So that's what I think is the next answer. But the thing is, those are hard to do. And that's why defenses are doing it. Like they're making them, you do the hard things. And so it makes a ton of sense. So I was wondering if you have any thoughts on this? Yeah.
Well, I was about to say in response to that, like we just saw the Ravens in the AFC title game for the second half. Like the Chiefs could not move the ball at all. You get the strike from Mahomes to Kelsey where Kyle Hamilton had literally perfect coverage on the play and it was still a touchdown. And then one other drive. But outside of that, you know, even when you, especially when you have the players like Baltimore does, even people like Mahomes and Andy Reid will still struggle against it. I do think that some of these defensive coordinators, like especially like a Brandon Staley type, you get a little too comfortable with your personnel. And you're like, okay, well, then this is how I can just always run things. Like if you're going to be a team that wants to disguise a bunch of stuff and run like 5-man boxes, yeah, you might need to have Aaron Donald, because the counter to that is, well, I'll just line up in 12 and just run on your ass.
Pound the rock.
Right.
Yep.
We'll run duo. And if you want to run a bunch of, you know, disguise coverages on the backside, maybe we can find someone who's rotating out of a gap. And next thing you know, we got someone running off to the races.
Guy didn't slant over quick enough.
Right. So it's all a cat and mouse game. But man, I would really just love some teams to just get in 12 or get in 21 and just pound the rock and see what happens. Because I don't think that most teams like have the collection of front 7 talent where they'll be able to stop it every week.
That's it. Next Gen Stats had the thing after the combine. It's like DBs and front 7 players are getting lighter and lighter than ever, and offensive linemen are getting heavier than ever. So it's just lean into it. It's just literally lean into the heavy guys. I mean, the Rams were doing it already, and I think others are doing it. I think that's what teams are doing. Like it's going to be an answer for a later question, but yeah, like plenty of tight end stuff. And I know 12 personnel is so kind of passe to kind of always go, oh, that's the next thing, 2 tight ends. It's like it's always been a thing. But now we're kind of getting, coaches are better at using these guys that aren't maybe the best blockers and stuff. Like Sam Laporta is a great example of that last year, Kincaid this year with the Bills. So, but also you mentioned like Andy Reid sometimes has issues, and West Coast guys, they want to get to the perfect play. The perfect play with the perfect answer with the perfect route against the perfect coverage. That's why their stuff's so wordy. That's why it's so specific. It's getting guys in certain spots. That's why these defenses do well against them, because then they go, oh, you're running the cover 3 play. Psych, it's cover 2. Like, you better find a bailout answer. And that's why I think sometimes those guys get caught once they get outside the opening script, and they have to actually read what they're getting every play. So it's kind of fun that seeing these defenses kind of taking it to what's the meta right now. This one I wanted to answer. This was from Zach, because this player kind of has had a nice week and is kind of, making us feel a little better about him. But Zach's question is, how do you foresee Brian Thomas Jr., receiver for the Jags, fit in Doug, he just said Doug's offensive scheme. Doug Peterson's offensive scheme. There's only one Doug right now. So much has been made about
coach for the Jaguars.
Much has been made about his downfield ball winning, which pairs well to Trevor. It does. And I have an answer about this, but no one has talked about his speed in the horizontal game. The Jags span mesh unlike any other team. Not wrong there. Do you think BTJ's skill set will help him run away from defenders across the field on shallow and intermediate crossers, hoping he's not a one-trick pony and the team is less fragile? John Shipley, our friend who covers the Jags, has said that no one can keep up with Thomas deep. Like, he has wheels and could go deep. Even though he had a really cool finish in the game the other day, he's not like a ball winner. He's not a dunker to me. He's such a unique player. I saw hip comparisons to him to T. Higgins, and I thought that was awful. T. Higgins is a dunk artist. Like, Thomas is like a silky smooth, like he can bend really in weird ways. Like, he's just a unique guy. So I having said all that, I do think he'll be good on the yak stuff, because he's not going to be breaking guys off and juking guys, but he can bend and he can accelerate very quickly for such a tall, long-legged guy. So yeah, short answer is I do think it would fit pretty well. Any thoughts on the Jags offense right now? Try to be nice about him right now.
Yeah, he's not like, it's not like Quentin Johnson, but
no.
He is kind of like a small ball, big receiver. And I think that can distort people's views, because you're like, oh, 6'4", 200 pounds, he's probably a huge contested catch guy. No, he's running deep, and he's going to get by most guys. Like, it makes you think back when if you saw the training camp clip today of Brian Thomas just torching some poor DB for the Bucks. Makes you think about Jaden Daniels flipping that play to all go in the Jets game last weekend, because like that's what he was throwing to, and he also had neighbors on the other side. So like that's speed that can get your teammates drafted, and it's something that they're gonna have to lean on. But yeah, I do think that can be a part of their game, because it's gonna have to be a part of his game, because it's not like you can just pigeonhole him in the one role that kind of overlaps with Gabe Davis. Like, no, he's going to have to be forced to do a lot more stuff just because of the composition of this roster. But he's at least got the tools to do it. He's got a good quarterback. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
He'll figure it out. Like, I'm optimistic about him. I think it's just that he'd be a slow starter in his career. Yeah. He's not going to be a guy that's like, oh my God, he's not going to Anquan Bolden it in week 1 to go for 200. But I think it's going to be more like he's going to be a steady climber. It's just good to see. It's like, oh, they found something for him right now, which is, of course, I mean, this dude ran a 4.33 at almost 6'3" flat, 6'2" and 7/8, 209. Like, that's flying. Like, that is, I know we get kind of jaded, like, so like we think 4.33 is like, oh, it's not 4.21. 4.33 is so freaking fast, and he actually shows the 4.33. So yeah, it's a cool play, just a unique player. I've been struggling to find a comparison for him, like, historically in my head. Dane Brugler used Chris Henry as a comparison, and I thought that was an interesting one. Former Bengals and West Virginia guy. But I've been trying to figure out one, so we'll see. We'll see if one hits my brain. But
Martavis is still in the league, kind of.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one, because Martavis is probably, 6'2"? He might be taller than that. Who did he just sign with? Martavis is 6'3.5". Look at you. 211. Look at you.
Hey.
4.42. Hey, you nailed that.
I remember him being faster, like, on field.
He's way faster on field.
Yeah, he felt way faster on the field.
No, he's 21 plus guy, 21 miles an hour. He's way fast. All right, next question. This one was a fun one, so I might not give a good answer, so I might want to answer this in a later mailbag, but we'll get into it. But imagine, from Matt C., imagine you had a time machine and could go back no earlier than 1990. Armed with the things we know about football in 2024, analytics, strategy, drafting, etc., you are tasked with taking over as GM and coach the 1990 Patriots, worst record in the league. How long does it take your team to become dominant? What are the 3 to 4 primary advantages you have based on the benefit of these last 3-4 years of football? Did you have any thoughts on this? I almost want to like use this at a different time because I want to marinate on it, but I have a couple kind of like cheats on it.
I did think about this. I would just be so curious to know like what skill set does my quarterback have? Because dude, if I can break out like. Because 1990 Patriots, I know that because the reason why Patriots fans cherish this run so much is because they were just absolute garbage before
they're terrible.
Before all of this happened.
Their quarterback they started 3 quarterbacks that year, 6 games and 4 games. It was bad. But the highest QB rating was 76. But
see, here's the thing. Some of like the scheme trends like you see in the league it's cyclical, right? So like if you go back and you watch like if you there's a ton of old like full NFL games up on YouTube. If you go back and watch like the Dan Reeves Falcons with Michael Vick, it looks like a lot of stuff you see in college. And
it's just not a shotgun.
And then Jim Mora came and was like, no, you're going to drop back. And then the dogfighting stuff happened and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But so I do wonder, like, if you were just to come out in 1990 and just start running, like, we're running Eagles, like RPO, 12 personnel, just all stuff like that. Like, how off guard would people be? I know they would for a while, but they would adjust. And they would figure it out.
They're facing a run and shoot then a little bit.
Right. So you got Warren Moon. Like this isn't totally foreign.
Run and shoot. And they also faced this is West Coast was starting to take hold. They took a couple more years before it started kind of spreading. But that's when it all started kind of merging all together. But guys are airing it out. It's not like totally foreign concept, like you said. No one was in shotgun. I thought more that this would be a Biff Tannen almanac thing from Back to the Future 2, where now I have the almanac and I know all the draft history. So I was like, let's look at this next draft class, the 1991 draft class, where we had the number 1 pick. The real Patriots traded it to Jimmy Johnson Cowboys, who were wheeling and dealing then. Brett Favre was in this draft class in the second round, of course. So I figured he'd be my answer somehow, some way, make sure he stays. Boston might not be the best area for him though.
No. Well, Atlanta wasn't for sure. So
I know. Green Bay. Yeah, I know.
He needs to go somewhere where there's nothing to do,
I know. And there's no team in Salt Lake. So it's
the offense that I might pluck. It might be like the 2015 Bruce Arians offense where Carson Palmer's you guys are all running West Coast? No. Our ADOT's 20. Our ADOT's 20, dog. We're taking 11-step drop backs and throwing 40 yards down the field.
It's the most pure drop back football. And I think we had a question that we might not get to, but it was about kind of like your preferred offense or whatever. And it's always Arians. Like Tom Brady operating that offense is like, we'll probably never see that match again. Like a guy that's able to get rid of the ball in 2 seconds and also push the ball like 15 yards a pop. Yeah, just absurd stuff. I know. I was like kind of looking I think it was the 93 draft class was where you could really like, if you did your picks right, I'd wheel and deal. Kind of hopefully Favre works out some kinks. I'd really wheel and deal for that draft class. You get like Willie Rofe. You get like there's some real players in that class. So I want to maybe next mailbag we'll really address this one, but I'll get to the next question. Okay, we're going to take a quick break and get back to more of you guys' questions. We are back, and we are getting to William S.'s question. Hi, Nate / Charles. This is a question I've wanted to ask you in a mailbag for a few years now. When O-line experts speak about how offensive line prospects / players are talented and physically gifted or not talented and physically gifted. How does that translate on the field? What are the on-field tells from line play that tells you whether or not the guy is a physical freak or an average athlete? Hope my question makes sense. It does. Way too often I hear guys speak about how X tackle is a physical freak without saying how that translates to that player being good. Thoughts? I'll let you go.
I would say the first thing is probably like, if you're like a tackle or really any of the five that's like consistently getting your head across on like reach plays and outside zone plays, like you're consistently getting across, especially like if you're trying to block over like a center trying to block a 1 or a guard trying to block a 3 or a tackle trying to block like a 6 or a 7. If you can like consistently get to that outside shoulder, you're probably a pretty good athlete. And yeah, I'm still so like Falcons centered when I think about the NFL that I think even like the comparison from like Drew Dahlman and like what he's able to do, because I think he's a good athlete, you know, but it's not always actionable athleticism, because it's like, yeah, like he's someone that can
functional.
Get to the functional, right? So he's someone that can get to an outside shoulder of a defensive tackle, but he's on the ground. Right.
Yeah. Or he'll get blown back.
Right. Or he'll get blown back once he gets there. Or he's a guy that's like, you know, because some of these guys, if they know they're not as strong, you'll see them take like a back step first so they can like loop around in front. But now you're giving them ground before you even hit someone. So it's not really a viable plan all the time. But I think that's one of the good tells if someone's a good athlete, or if you're in pass pro and, you know, it's never going to be perfect, right? But if you're someone who like gets beat on initial move, but can kind of kick back and recover and still stay on balance, that's another good tell too.
Yeah, most of my stuff is just osmosis from my dad, and which is he likes big guys that can move. So his big thing was what you just finished on, was how they recover, and every guy is different. And I know that's kind of very broad answer, but some guys it's technique and they have good hands and they can know how to reset their hands and everything. But you see a guy maybe bend and like reshift his feet back into the right spot. You see a guy with foot quickness and reset his feet somehow. You see a guy be able to have one hand, get themselves back into position and get into two hands. So recoverability is kind of one of those things that you'll see. Bend is the number one thing. Bend meaning, can this guy bend? If you see a guy, or if you've ever seen someone power clean or hang clean or squat, that's what I mean by bend. How they sink down and get underneath, get their hips underneath. And that's what you look for. Then when you see a guy you start looking at heights and weights with this. Okay, maybe a guy that's 6'3", or 6'3", 310. Okay, you better be able to bend. But maybe a guy 6'5.5", 335. Oh, wow. That's where it's the sliding scale of that being impressive. Like Dahlman doing it, yeah, you better, because he plays at 290. Jason Kelce, hell of a player, but he's playing at 270. Yeah, he better be able to bend, like, because that's how they win. That's how he recovers, bending and being an athlete. The other thing is, what were you saying?
When we watched Tristan Wirfs, like that was the thing with him, because he was 330 pounds. And I remember I tweeted a clip. I was like, oh my God, like this guy's amazing. And someone clipped back to me, is like, dude, he's getting beat like off the snap on something. He's like, okay, but no one's getting close to the quarterback on any of his plays, because he's still able to recover and then push down. I think of like a specific example is like when you see someone get beat, kind of, but then they're able to recover enough just to wash someone way outside the pocket. Yep. That's another sign of a pretty good athlete. And like you said, sliding scale. If you can do that 330,
that's where we're cooking. The last thing, and this is my dad's biggest tell, and this is why I was way lower on Evan Neal and Trevor Penning, are they on the ground? You mentioned Dahlman pulling. Who cares if he can move if he's on the ground? If they're trying to finish and they're like 2 yards, okay, they got their initial run block, 1 step, 2 step, and then that guy just throws them by and their heads down, they've fallen over themselves, they look like a toddler that ran too fast. Like that's usually a sign of not a good athlete, because that's balance, that's finish, that's being able to bend, keep your feet, and do all those things. So that's just like a little telltale sign for me. If a guy can keep his feet, and he can bend. This is why I love Tyler Smith. That guy never was on the ground, and his feet. Oh, he has so many holds. It's like hand placement is so fixable, but being able to bend at 330 pounds, I cannot teach that. There's no drill that is going to let me teach that. So, so I could go on this for years and years. This is when we'll get the big guy on one time, let him rant and rave about this.
Yeah, we should just feed him Trevor Penning clips before he comes on.
Oh yeah, he told me he's going to start watching film more. He's going to tweet some clips out. He said, so
hell yeah.
We'll be on the lookout for that. But next question from Abby. Or Abby. So I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Yeah. Abby. Okay, we're going to Abby. Hey, Nate Charles. So the Rams paid Jonah Jackson and Kevin Dotson big money this offseason. And a lot of people were talking about how this was largely due to the offense running more duo last year, one of them being me, which demands high-level guard play to work well. It does. A lot of double teams. Makes a lot of sense. So paying those guards will, in theory, let them lean into a lot more and do it well. On that note, I want to ask about what other player acquisitions, whether big or small, will have the biggest impact on their new team scheme in terms of what they're running and how they're running it. There's more to it, but that's the gist of the question. Got any kind of just someone, maybe a little identity shift or anything like that? I got a couple. One we covered the other day, the Lions corners. That was one I kind of.
That's a good one.
If you want to hear about it, we talked about it on our show on Tuesday. But the Lions quarterbacks additions was one for me.
What about the opposite direction, like teams who have lost? This morning I watched some of the Graham Barton slaughter against
DJ Reader.
Yes, against the Bengals. And
great call.
That's something where it's a subtraction, but it's absolutely going to have to change the way that our pal Big Lou calls the Bengals defense, because like when you're missing that kind of plug in the middle, it really affects every single thing that you're trying to do on defense, right? So I think, if you're just looking at like one-on-one swaps like that, I do think that losing DJ Reader, and now you're going to, a Sheldon Rankins, BJ Hill, Chris Jenkins Jr. interior, the guys are probably going to get moved off the ball quite a bit, unless BJ Hill just hits like a superhero arc in his career.
I think TR Tart got released, so maybe they can hit him up.
What's the deal with him? He keeps getting cut.
I think he's got character stuff. That's why he fell in draft anyways. And then the Titans, he kept butting heads with Vrabel, I think. That's perfect
people just get tired of you after a while, And
then that's the thing, he goes to Texans. I think he kept his head down, and then okay, where's my money now kind of thing. So I know he's a hell of a player. It's stink, but he's perfect for what the Bengals need, so maybe they can hit him up. I actually DJ Reader with the Lions, but the Lions are actually really good against the run last year. They're third in EPA per rush, so kind of helping that out. I also had Colby Parkinson, and this is / the ascendance of Davis Allen for the Rams. So tight ends for the Rams. I think they're going to be, this is Mr. 11 personnel, Sean McVay. I think because of what they want to do this year and what I think they're going to lean into and maybe take some reps off of Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua so they're not fitting up on guys all the time, is more two tight end looks. I think they're going to be one of the teams. And I'm not saying every play, but rather than none, more like 5 to 6 a game, which is a big bump for them. So those guys I'm interested in because one's a good athlete now and Parkinson's a fun blocker. Brian Burns with the Giants, that's kind of fun. I think that's just more a fun addition. I think just because they got some real juice and everybody's kind of a nice role. Like him and Lawrence are going to really, Giants defense look good, man. That first preseason game, they're looking good. I'm feeling good about that take, even though they're starting all rookies at DB. And Deontay Banks is playing more in the slot, so keep an eye out for that. Last one.
I feel like the Rams, they're probably the cleanest example of this because because NFL coaches can be stubborn, and a lot of guys are signing players to fit things that they already want to do. But Sean is. He's changed his offense a ton since he first came. It was running the Rams offense since 2017 was his first year there. It's not even close to the same thing that he was running back then. So I think that they're probably the cleanest example of that. But you might be looking more at losses more than gains when you want to frame this question. Because you feel them more, right. And then you see how they have to adapt on it. No, I think. Even losses that are positive. That's why I'm pretty positive about the Seahawks defense. It's because the guys they lost is actually going to be a good thing. Oh my God, this is hilarious. So Stone just hit us up. Producer Stone just said, Tira Tart just signed with the LA Chargers 60 seconds ago. Jim will fix him.
We'll fix it. Yeah, you'll get him right. Candyman. Say Candyman 3 times in the mirror. Tear tart. Okay. Oh, the last one was Xavier McKinney with the Packers. Because they're going to be more, because I was going roster by roster. I was just looking at your team like, who did they sign again? Because I talked about the front the other day, or we did, they're going to be more cover 3 team, a little zag kind of compared to what everyone else is doing right now. He's a deep post safety. That's why I wink at him there, because they ran a lot of man coverage and blitz stuff. So that makes a lot of sense for what they're going to do. And they drafted Bullard, who you have experience with, and he's going to be more of the box guy. He's a smart player. On tight ends, more of the move around guy. So yeah, those 2 additions I thought were going to be a nice DNA shift there. They need it. All right, next one. All right, here we go. This is Ryan N. I have heard and appreciated your analysis on Bo Nix and this Broncos offense. He's talking to both of us because we were both on the show, on both your show and the Mina Kimes show. I'm actually in a minority of Broncos fans who mostly agrees with you. Mostly agrees with what you're seeing, and I'm still very skeptical on where this Payton/Nix marriage is going. My question, where do you see this offense going schematically, both for Bo's rookie season and long-term? I'm having trouble imagining Payton signed up to run the Oregon offense for the rest of his career, but I also can't really see his under-center run game meshing with the Oregon run RPO-based offense. God, you're just pulling out this thread. This is great. In fact, I thought we saw a bit of the schematic clash in the Colts game where Bo took few, if any, dropbacks from under center. So that was from Ryan N. You want to start or you want me to go?
Oh, I had a mean little quip joke that popped in my head when you said, we got to where do you see his offense going? Horizontal. That's where I see it going.
That's a succinct way to put it, though.
Well, because, I mean, look, here's the deal. You drafted a quarterback at 12 that does things that most quarterbacks can do. You know, like there's no like physical trump card with him, and you're still dealing with like adjusting to the game as a rookie. And even in the game we just saw, you know, that people were impressed by. You look at the final numbers, it's 6 yards an attempt. You know, it's 15 for 21 for 125 yards. That's not that good. You know, like we really, right. That means we really struggled to move the ball that day. We didn't. Yeah, we completed a bunch of passes, but for what? Who cares? Like we're not converting anything. Like you want to talk about like schematically, where could this go? I don't know, because you need so many good players for this to work, and they don't have many. So, you know, I would have guessed they're going to do a lot of, you know, stuff that would fall under like cheese category on Madden or CFB 25, right? We're running like a bunch of RPOs and we're running like play action sliders, so we can just get them on the move and no one's shooting through gaps trying to kill our little quarterback. I don't know. I don't really see, like, if you're a Broncos fan, what is your best case scenario for what Bo Nix hopes to be? Like, that's it. Already 24 years old.
That's what I keep coming back to. If this was a 21-year-old that started 2 years in college and, okay, all right, what can we grow with this? He's old. That's where you have to start with. And it has to be something said. And I have to kind of reemphasize this where everyone goes, oh, well, Burrow was old. Okay, Burrow is the mid-90s Houston Rockets when MJ retired. He's the exception to the rule for all these rules because there's so many things he's the outlier on. But Bo Nix he's an older player that is a nickel and dime guy. When you said horizontal, that nails it. It looks like it's going to be a heavy, quick game and RPO offense. And whatever reason, and I thought Sean Payton's kind of football dogma would be wanting to push the ball more play action, more true 5-step drops, more, you know, like we're going intermediate. We're attacking that 10 to 20 yard area, what Breeze was so good at early in his career. But I think he's like, well, no, I like that old offense, the 2017, 2018 Saints, where it was hyper efficient, brutally efficient offense that was just, I mean, Breeze's success rate that year was like 55%. Like no one's going to touch that number ever again. And they had a good run game. So that's what maybe in his head is what he actually wants. Do you have Drew Brees with 200 starts under his belt playing for you? Like That's what you need to do that. You need the hyper efficient operator. And I think the narrative they told themselves was, well, Bo Nix is a vet. He can step right, you know, at 24 years old, he can step right in and run this. But when I watched him in that first preseason game, this is why I've been a little negative, or a little more negative than others. I'm not saying like, boom, nuke it. He's never have a chance to start. But this is where my concerns lie, is that third down scramble he had, and this is just one play example, but third down scramble he had, gets the first down. Everyone's like, well, that's a great flash of his athleticism. Shows off his scrambling ability. That play was a mesh concept, which I know for a fact Bo Nix has run at Auburn and at Oregon and probably in high school. Everyone runs mesh. He passes up not one, but two open reads that I know are part of the progression on that concept. I know that for a fact. You might just say, well, only one of those should be the guy. Okay. Well, one of them was open and he had a clean pocket, a clean NFL pocket, I should say. Maybe we would have to hitch up a little, but that would be hitching up into the throw, which is in the NFL, that's a clean pocket. He turns it down, tries to scramble, break contain. Yes, he gets by against backups of the Colts defense. But in the NFL, that's not going to, you could do that once or twice. You can't, that's not sustainable unless you're a freak. You have to take those, especially if this is how you're supposed to win, because he's not an overwhelming athlete and he doesn't have an overwhelming arm. His first pass, stick nod concept. Everybody runs stick nod. Sean Payton loves stick nod. That's the tight end running a stick nod, 5 to 6 yard route. Then he gets upfield down the seam. And it's usually out of empty, and the quarterback will go left to right, crossfield read. He does the crossfield read correctly, which if you're teaching, you'd be like, okay, he probably could have hit his number one read, which is the little choice route sit on the other side. He progresses, he's late, and he throws the ball inside where the tight end almost gets killed. Yes, he progresses, but he's late and he throws the ball inside, which are both no-nos. You never throw late over the middle. And that's it. He didn't do that in college. And I know it's one preseason game, but that's the thing. I think he's already kind of done. Like, this is him. So that's where what are we getting out of this? Which is what you said, horizontal. So
yeah,
why take him at 12? That's
I
where
I
just gave him back to. Take him in the second. There's less pressure on it and you're fine. That's where you should have gone.
And even if you're scouting narratives for the Bo Nix stuff, like, dude, you're aiming for the worst version of Drew Brees? Like, what is this? Because the thing with the late career Drew Brees stuff is that offense was built out of necessity, not because that's what they wanted to run.
That was
he
his
was
arm.
40, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was 40. His arm had turned to grease and pulled pork.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there.
And let's try and roll with it.
Right.
Yeah.
And like you said, that works when you've had 200 starts and have had MVP caliber years and have won a Super Bowl. But for that to be your starting point, that's not good. Like you said, I think you said on the last episode or last week's episode, you compared freaking Caleb Williams to Purdue Drew Brees, because that's what Drew Brees was when he got to the NFL. He didn't become, the Bo Nix variant until he was like 39 years old,
Correct.
man.
And you have to evolve your game. But people don't realize some of these older guys, even Peyton Manning, was a better athlete than we realized. Yeah, he's not running a 4.4, but he's not running a 5.9 like he was late in his career. He was running like a 4.8. And like, he could do bootlegs. He can move around and scramble a little bit. It's like you
Dude,
gotta remember.
He had a gun too.
And he had a hose. Oh my God. I know. It's like and not even just like good, like very good, a 7 on the scouting scale. It's, and also on top of it, if you're an older player that's supposed to be this assassin, this has always been labeled, his footwork is more skittish than Drake May. And Drake May, I all I hear about is Drake May's footwork. Nix's footwork is worse than May, in my opinion. So that's another thing is, I don't know. It's just, none of it adds up. And yeah, it's kind of left me in a weird spot when I'm watching the Broncos, because I want to get around. I like Sean Payton as a play caller. I just can't get around on it. All right, we're going to take another break and get back to the last grouping of your guys' questions. All right, we are back. More of your questions. This one's from Alex. Is the Raiders' decision to hire Tom Telesco one of the worst, or at least one of the most baffling GM hires ever? Just to put it in context, the Chargers were 84-92 while Telesco was GM. That's a lot of games. With a whopping 2 playoff wins in the decade he was running the show. This despite having a top 10 essentially every season. Oh yeah, and maybe the most important context, he got fired before the season was over in 2023 because the Chargers lost 63-21 in embarrassing fashion to the Raiders. The same Raiders that only a month later hired him to be their GM. What exactly about the last decade of watching the Chargers as a division rival would make Mark Davis think, yeah, that's the guy I want in charge of my roster? I feel I've heard Nate in specific be critical of Telesco's draft history and general strategy. I thought this would be a fun opportunity to address just how insane the context is around this hire, since GM hires don't get discussed that much in general.
What's there left to say?
I know, he nailed it. I mean,
thanks, around the head, it's ridiculous.
I was reading, I'm like, yeah, this is right. He goes, I feel Nate. It's like, yes, you have. This is exactly kind of what I've kind of just throw my hands up at. Okay. There might be a little bit of a Red McCombs here. I know a Red McCombs when I see it. I have no inside knowledge of this. And why I'm saying that is the Raiders are paying off a lot of old staffs. So that might drop the rate that they can give out there. So that's who you're kind of maybe bargain shopping. Maybe just a recently fired GM that who cares if it was in your division? He knows the league. He's plug and play. We don't have to groom anybody else. So maybe that's a little bit of that. Why I was never, this is great. I love talking about Telesco. I know he lets Staley always just have to answer to stuff too. And Staley wasn't great by the end there, but Telesco was always just like, oh, sorry guys. Sorry, JC Jackson didn't work for your scheme. And JC Jackson's a great example. He never understood the players he was drafting for what his team was running on offense or defense. It was players for players, not matching what was a need or a scheme fit. So like, they had no blocking tight end for forever. They had no running back to help out Eckler, and even the guys they did draft weren't good in pass protection, which is like where they needed help at. Never had interior depth. They never had a spine of a defense, even though Staley at the end was like, that's their defense. They're going to go light boxes like that. They never addressed that. The medical staff was always a mess, and that's on the GM to me, and maybe some of it's owner, but that's on the GM because you are the general manager of the entire team. So all these kind of things where it's just like he never understood what actually his team was. So yeah, that's I have plenty of Telesco thoughts, but it's their team's already done. But we'll see what they do with quarterback in the future. Maybe he's got a hot hand for QBs.
It's the 63-21 and then hiring that guy to be your GM. That's all you need to know. That's all you need to know. Mark's budget's a little tight. So yeah, you might have to hire the GM you beat 63-21 with Aiden O'Connell as your quarterback.
When the money wasn't made outside the NFL, that's when you start kind of piecing things together. All right, next one from Justin. Oh, this is a you question too, or you answer, I should say. This question isn't as damning as it comes across through text. This you want to, the statement. If Drake May has fallen to 8th overall and the Falcons had selected him despite the dire needs on defense and having just signed Kirk Cousins, who has been more volatile than people are recently recollecting? That's about Kirk Cousins. Would you have still considered an egregious decision? If not, considering our collective poor track records of prognosing, of predicting which first round quarterbacks will have success. Thank you. I'm not an English major, man. I was a math guy. Are we not admitting the problem was not selecting a quarterback, but the lower evaluations on Penix? Is that not a faulty reasoning? Hypocritical even? Okay, what he's basically saying is if it was Drake May, would your tune be different? I'm letting you handle this one.
Of course it would be, because he's a better player.
That's it.
That's all it is.
Situation does matter, but the players you draft do matter as well.
Yeah, and like, sure, it's the NFL. Anything can happen. Like a future world where Penix is better than Drake May. Like, it's not impossible. I mean, who knows? They've been NFL players for a week. You can't say anything's not going to happen, but I know if I had to roll the dice, I know which one I'm taking every single time. Right. So that's the truth. Yeah. I mean, and to be honest, I would have felt the same way if it was JJ McCarthy. I've been like, okay, I can stomach this, but the 24-year-old quarterback with bad knees that doesn't like to throw over the middle is, I don't know. And I still think there's space for Penix to be a starter because he's going to hunt big plays and, you're going to hit on some of those. But overall, like, I don't know. I don't think that the profile, it's not something that you really ever see hit in the NFL, which is why a lot of people were pushing back against it.
Yeah. Age and there's going to be another question. I'll talk more about this, but yeah, injuries. So yeah, some of the play style things. May, that's why I just really like May. You also got to look at the age, and I know not every player's the same. Every player's different. Some guys are going to hit later and ascend later in their career, some earlier. But like, you also just have to, like you said, it's bets. I know for a fact, and I could do studies on this, that the younger guys going to have more room for growth. Guys with a better arm, better athleticism are going to have more room for growth. That is not just like theory. It's basically proven. Like it's just physics of like athletes and people. So that's why May makes more sense for this timeline that they talked about. Penix to me would have made sense if the Vikings ended up with Penix and they said, and they maybe still had Darnold, that would actually have made a little bit more sense because they're saying, hey, we have nothing attached with Darnold, but all right, Penix he can hit the ground running because we have a pretty ready-made roster. For more about Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy's situation, please check out my column on Yahoo this week. But
listen to basically everything we've done this week.
Oh yeah, right. I know. Even the guest shows I've been on, but. Yeah, it's all about what you're chasing and what the high-end play of these guys are, especially if you're drafting top 10. You can find guys that can perform what Penix has nice traits. Like I do think there's a role, like he could start in this league. It's just that what else do you have? Like I'm watching him already. I do see him going 1 to 2 to 3, but he knows what he is and he knows his play style. So it's like, this is him. So again, when you're that old and have that player profile, what else are you trying to tap into? So, but Nick P had a question that kind of matched up with the Falcons question and also kind of like a traits thing. But I'm a Falcon. Nick P said, I'm a Falcons fan who's trying to figure out how to feel about Penix. I think same with my friend over here.
Yeah.
After the shock value of drafting him.
Shock value is a great way to put it.
I'm trying to stay neutral in the situation. Yeah. Until it's time for him to play. What does concern me is that I know you and others have said one of his negatives is that he doesn't and or struggles to throw over the middle. How common is it for QBs to improve on that once they're in the league? What are the developmental steps to doing so? Thanks. I'm still trying to figure this out, whether I want to do a more of a long-term study on this. It's something why I prioritize guys throwing over the middle is it kind of the traits that usually that shows means good things that translate. So shows anticipation, shows understanding of the play, shows understanding of the defense because you have to anticipate where lanes are going to open up and you have to have willingness to push the ball, actual balls. So I think that stat and that trait is something I will have to, like whenever I wrote about Penix, I talked about Penix, I wrote about JJ McCarthy, Jane Daniels, and brought up throwing over the middle stuff, and Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. It's because I watch them and go, well, they're not attacking over the middle. And then I look up the stats and go, well, they're not throwing over the middle. And you can get by if you have other aspects of your game, if you're a good scrambler, if you can create a little bit, if you're a hyper efficient underneath guy. But that's where the juiciest areas of the defense are. It shows other traits that translate to other things. And unless you're really a Shanahan guy, like that's kind of a prerequisite in that offense anyways. Like, I don't know how workable it is or how much you can improve at that. Maybe go below average to average, but I don't think you can go like below average to great. I think it's just one of those traits that's like, you have to have some feel for it. But that's, I think quarterbacks only drop off from college to the pros. Like Jalen Hurts was very good throwing over the middle in college when I was studying this, but that was the offense. It wasn't a ton of them. It was a lot of, play action. Lincoln Riley, one guy would sit over the middle. So yes, they would count over the middle, but it wasn't the seams, the digs, the big boy throws. Not that he won't throw the ball down the field, but so yeah, long answer. It's just, I don't know how much you can improve, but it is something I do value. Haven't studied long-term, but Penix though, shorter answer on him. He will throw over the middle, but he's not good at it. It's because that's where his throwing style, the longer platform, he kind of takes that extra second to throw. That's where it shows up. He's thrown over the middle. He can't really just get those guys in stride all the time, consistently at least. So anything to add, or I just took all the air out of the room?
No, that's good.
All right, let's go through the next one.
I mean, he's going to be on ice until 2027. Whatever.
We'll deal with that.
We'll deal with it then, yeah.
It's like the ending of a Marvel movie. It's like, okay, well, yeah, the stinger. It's like, okay, we'll see that villain in 4 years. All right, but this is kind of a follow-up question that kind of ties in this. Emily asked, what personal conviction do you have about QB play at the moment that could be totally wrong in 2 to 3 years as you continue to learn? Throwing over the middle. So yeah, that's one right now. The other one would be for me is QBs have to hit a certain scramble threshold. Traditionally, I like the guy that never scrambles and dices you up, but I don't know if guys can like live that way these days. Stroud's trying it and he's really, really freaking good at it. So maybe you can. So that might be one I kind of have. Do you have any kind of stereotypes on guys?
I had, it's funny because I had one earlier, but then it like totally slipped my mind. I should have written it down.
I have to write it down, man.
I know. Yeah. The CTE and turning 30 thing is just it's not always conducive towards remembering things. But I think if like one thing if there's one thing that like I'm convicted about that could be totally wrong, is I think people need to drop how much they care about like interception totals.
I love that.
It just depends on where they come and how they come. Because like, dude, because people will point at Josh Allen and he threw like 18 interceptions. Like, dude, how many of them are like on 3rd and 18 and he's throwing the ball 50 yards down the field? It's like,
or a high risk, high reward.
Right. Yeah. But come on. We can't live in the like you can't be like excited about Bo Nix and being scared about Josh Allen like in the same breath. And there are a lot of those people who exist because they're just like so risk averse. But no, you got to gun it. You got to throw it down the field. And I believe that people will eventually, hopefully catch up to the light with that. Because look, how many high interception totals with Josh Allen do you need to see where he's still ranking like top 3 in EPA per play? Okay.
Or every stat, period.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, come on. Let's get over this.
Yeah, he doesn't take any sacks, and he creates explosive play after explosive play. Yeah, it's fine to throw interceptions if you're adding up, if you contribute elsewhere. It brings us back to like the Bo Nix conversation. If you're just going to nickel and dime, well, you better be amazing at it, or you better be a great scrambler to like help create other things. So, next question from Alex P. Hi, Nate Charles. I'm Alex from Brazil. Wanted to ask if the Colts have a real shot at the division title. If the Steichen-Richardson combo hits, plus Latu on defense, maybe the easy schedule can help. Not a Texan Stroud hater here. Just wondering if you guys think it's possible for Indy to pull that off. And my answer is yes. I think so.
Dude, they almost won the division last year.
Yeah, I think they're just a live underdog. I think their offense could be really good. I had them in my top 10, and I believe that. And I think the back end of their defense isn't great, but the front seven's pretty solid, and they could stop the run, and now they add a little bit more juice. So yeah, I think they're a live dog. I think anyone in that division's live. I think it's AFC South. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Yeah, that's all. They got Richardson, man, Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be really fun. Strap in, guys. It's gonna be cool. All right, last question here. Last main question. There's one tweet I want to answer, but last main question. Tyler M. Big fan of the show and listening to you to get to the details and some of the underrated storylines, subplots around the NFL. So I figured I'd ask a question that nobody is asking. What is the best case scenario for the Giants offense? Can they be a league average unit, or is that insane? I don't know if I want to read the rest of this.
I think that's insane.
He said he still believes in Daniel Jones. So I won't read that out. So, but thank you, Tyler. You think it's insane?
Yeah, I think that's nuts. Like, dude, and hopefully this is for your sake. I get old takes exposed in a few months, and you can have a good laugh at my expense. But like, you don't just go from having maybe the worst offensive line I've ever seen, and I know that they were dinged up last year, to like,
it was bad though.
It was awful. I mean, the week 1 game where they lost, like 40-0 to the Cowboys, and it wasn't even a good game from Dak in the pouring rain. I was like, oh, this is going to be nasty. And then Daniel Jones got hurt, probably in part because the offensive line was so bad. But to me, you're putting way too much on Malik Neighbors for you to think that this could be an average offense. The running game, I would expect to be one of the worst in the league. Now that Saquon's gone, I've been a Devin Singletary fan, but like, he's someone that needs help to kind of get going. I don't know if he quite has that here. And I think outside of Neighbors, the rest of the wide receiver group is like, at best, like solid wide receiver 3s in a good offense. There's no juice here outside of the one rookie. And I think that that's a bad recipe for trying to actually get things going. But hey, maybe next year when Theo Johnson's got another year in the league and Daniel Jones is on another team, you'll have some success and get that league average offense you're looking for.
I do like Theo Johnson. They're a year away offensively. I'm excited about the defense, legitimately. Yeah. But yeah, the offense is one of my picks for maybe bottom 3 in the league, and it starts with the line. Andrew Thomas rocks, but it's just kind of like they need 2 more guys.
Some of your parts position.
Yeah, and You mentioned it. Singletary's slow-mo. Like, he's good if you have a good line. Like, he's going to get you the yards you block for. But if you don't, he's not explosive enough to really create. He'll make a guy miss. That's why he's awesome slow-mo. But then it's like 2-yard gain. It's not like a guy missing. It's like, oh, touchdown. It's like, no, it's like, yeah, he just got a couple yards there. We'll see. I know they like Tracy, and we'll see if Eric Gray's anything. But again, it's like the line's not going to overwhelm. Yeah, Drew Lock's already hurt. Misreading everything. That was atrocious by him, by the way, in the preseason game. He missed about 5. Like, Neighbors didn't get any targets there because Locke wasn't getting him the ball. Like, and it's not just like me being an annoying fan or anything. Like, it's me truly watching it, reviewing it, and going like, they were designing plays for Neighbors to get the ball, and he's just like turning it down, like just.
Yeah. Remember, I don't remember if it was on this show or Mia's show where I described Sam Darnold as like, whether good or bad, he never remembers what happened the play before. But Drew Lock, he takes it a step further because like Drew might be in practice and might not know like what just happened on the last play because it's like he's throwing the same picks for 5 years. It's like, dude, are you going to learn, or is this just it? And I guess we learned this is just it.
You said didn't remember the previous play. It's like doesn't remember the play call. Like, he I mean, the first play. This was hilarious, and this is how it wraps up, but everyone ran this preseason, which is really funny because it's a staple play. So it will be a run play, usually duo, with 2 tight ends and 2 receivers on the other side. And if the box is loaded or box is kind of too high, then you just pound the rock. If they load the box and single high, then you just check into a mirrored pass concept. So rather than 99 with a tight end down the middle, it's just this heavy protection, go routes, stop routes on either side, 2 corner. It's the same route. You pick your best matchup and go. You usually do if you have a good receiver. My dad used to run with Moss. Like, that's why you did it. But they did it with Neighbors because they were like, yeah, we're going to show off our new shiny toy. First play of the game, preseason. Let's rock. Locke gets fooled and throws it against cover 2 or tries to run against cover 2 where the play's dead. There's no outlet there. He has to check it down, but instead of checking it down, he takes a run, and it's like, this, of course, now this is how he gets hurt. So I just thought it's funny. They were trying.
If you're like not Lamar Jackson and you're quarterback running against cover 2, you're going to get hurt most likely.
Yeah.
Everyone's just waiting there to pump you.
There's a difference between like how Mahomes and like Prime Rodgers did it, where you get that sneaky first down and just get out of bounds.
Yeah.
You're not getting hit. You're scrambling, but there's a difference when you're trying to juke guys. Oh, and then I have to slide last second, and then it's like, like you get like 3 guys hitting you. Like, those add up. Like that. Yeah, it's not a good sign.
You know what quarterback I used to love watching run, and it's so random, but Blake Bortles. Dude. I used to love watching him run, like read options and stuff when Hackett was there, and when he would scramble, because like, oh, dude, like you should have been a tight end in college, man. Like that
absolutely.
Like that was your calling. But somehow you ended up as a quarterback. He got rich. He got rich at least.
Darnold's got a little bit of that too.
Yeah,
that's probably why I like him too. Did have one last like tweet question I just want to throw out here. He was talking about like a full team, but I'm going to assume he means flag football here. Draft your starting offensive defense for Team USA for a hypothetical 2028 Olympics football team. But let's say we're doing we're doing the flag football stuff, which NFL players are apparently very interested in.
Yeah,
a little bit of marketing in LA. Wouldn't you do your brand? I mean, yeah,
and go get a couple gold medals. I know the owners are not happy, but
no,
whatever. I think that's what 5.
Fight back, NFLPA.
Yeah, fight back. Let these guys have a life. Hey, look, you could tear your ACL in practice. You're going to get hurt. You have a risk of getting hurt anytime you expose yourself to athletic activity. All right, so don't be so scared. Let's go play. The preseason.
Do you have any players you want to see in there?
Bijan Robinson.
Oh yeah, good call.
Yeah,
he played two ways too.
Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs were 2 of the first guys that came to mind.
Yeah, you want juice. You want like speed guys. I mean, Tyreek would be the ultimate.
Basically, all these guys who, like when you watch their clips and it's just like them breaking someone down in open space. Like I bet DeAndre Swift would be an incredible flag football player.
Right. Yeah,
because he doesn't have to read anything. Just make that guy in front of you miss.
It's a great call. Lamar would automatically be the quarterback I'd want, even in 4 years, because he's still in his prime. Yeah, I know.
But it'll be Mahomes for sure. You
want Mahomes too?
I think it will be Mahomes for the Olympics because he's going to have like 7 Super Bowls by then. So who better?
Trying to find something new. This is his Birmingham Barons.
I actually wrote like a jokey portion about this on a 4Verts a couple weeks ago, and I was like Googling the ages of people, and Mahomes will be about to turn 32 for the next Olympics 4 years from now.
32.
Or about to turn 32 or 33. I'm like, oh my God, there's still so much more. There's still so much more here.
That's why after like everyone that complained about him the year they beat the Eagles, and everyone's like, well, he's not doing it. It's like, you guys don't realize how young he is? Like, strap in. Like, we're just seeing like
also, you just don't understand what you're watching. The people who thought he was like mid in that Eagles game, I was like, oh my God, please stop.
He's evolved to newest level. So yeah, that's what he's playing a whole half of the preseason. So actually, it's going to say we actually get to see a little bit of his first throw of the preseason. It's a bootleg, just stops and throws this one over the middle between two guys. And it's like, if anyone else did that, that's the highlight of their week. No one tweeted it. I watched it. I'm just like, yeah, that's expected. But if like freaking Caleb did that, or Jaden Daniels, or any of the rookie quarterback, or any second, if Anthony Richardson did that, I'd be like, oh. But yeah, Mahomes, just expected. That's why he's in his own tier. That was fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for those questions. You guys did a great job. I will be back on Tuesday, and are we doing that one in person? No, that's the next one. That's the one following that. Yeah. Next one's not in person, but the one after that, we'll be doing a person in LA, which will be a lot of fun. But I am Nate Tice. You can find me at Nate_Tice. Where can they find you, Charles?
You can probably on Twitter at 4Verts, and people will call me Mr. Verts. So I guess maybe I'll eventually change my Twitter name to that too.
I love it. It's better than Mr. Hands. But that was one I just loved. There's several emails, maybe half a dozen that said Mr. Tyson, Mr. Verts, or hi Nate, Mr. Verts, which yes, thank you. I love this so much. But make sure you subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us, rate us, watch us on YouTube, the Yahoo Sports YouTube channel. Follow Yahoo Sports on Snapchat too, if you're into that kind of thing. Next time we do the mailbag, we'll kind of make sure we keep tweeting it. But if you have questions right now, we will check all of these. So send your questions for next time. Just a couple we didn't get to that I want to dovetail on next time or put a pin in for next time. Football301 mailbag at yahoosports.com. That is football301 mailbag at yahoosports.com. Those emails are great. If you want to send a voice note, that'd be a lot of fun. Maybe we'll get into when some teams start losing. Those are always a great time when maybe guys are on some substance calling in. But thank you guys. And also thank you to Brett, Stone, and Addy behind the scenes. And thank you to you, Chuck. We'll be back on Tuesday. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Thank you so much. See you next time.